Okay, good evening. It's the 20th of June 2026. It's 22:39 p.m. and it's Natasha N.K.O and I'm reading again from Affrilachian Tales. The author storyteller is Lynn Ford, and I last read Fox and Old Man Turtle. So I'm going to start with the next one called Turtle Wants to Fly, and I'll just read on until I can't read no more. This is page 59. Turtle Wants to Fly. Back in the days when turtles had smooth shells, young Turtle wandered through the forest. He sniffed and he snuffled. He whined and he pouted. He fussed and he cried. Turtle made so much noise he woke up little sparrows who were trying to take a nap. They flew down their nests in the maple trees. They fluttered around Turtle. They asked, "Turtle, what is your problem?" Turtle said, "Turtle wants to fly." The sparrows tried not to laugh, but that was the silliest thing they'd ever heard. The sparrows chirped, "Turtle, you're not supposed to fly. To fly, you need feathers and wings, and you don't have those things. But you have gifts no bird has. You carry your home on your back. When it rains, you just slide inside. You're never lost or far from home. Be happy being Turtle." But Turtle shook his head in disagreement. He cried out, "Turtle wants to fly." He sniffed and he snuffled. He whined and he pouted. He fussed and he cried. The sparrows gave up on making Turtle feel better. They went back to their nests, pulled their heads close to their chests, and tried to get some sleep. Turtle walked back toward his family's pond. When he got there, his sisters and brothers were asleep in the sunlight that warmed their resting place, the rocks at the edge of the water. Turtle sniffled and he snuffled. He whined and he pouted. He fussed and he cried. Soon all the little turtles were awake. "Brother, what is wrong with you?" they all asked. Turtle said, "Turtle wants to fly." The other turtles tried not to laugh, but that was the silliest thing they'd ever heard. They said, "Oh, brother, we're not supposed to fly. To fly, we need feathers and wings, and you know we just don't have those things, but we can do things that nobody else can do. We carry our homes on our backs. When it rains, we just slide inside. We're never lost or far from home. Be happy being one of us." But Turtle shook his head and said, "Turtle wants to fly." He sniffled and he snuffled. He whined and he pouted. He fussed and he cried. He made so much noise that his sisters and brothers drew themselves into their shells and tried not to listen. So Turtle walked back into the forest, and you know what he did? Yes, he sniffled and he snuffled. He whined and he pouted. He fussed and he cried. Turtle made so much noise, nobody in the forest could take a nap. Two big blackbirds flew down. One settled on the left side of Turtle. The other sat on his right side. Turtle figured he was about to become dinner, but the blackbirds flapped their wings and called, "All this noise! Why'd you make all this noise?" You know what the turtle said? "Yep, Turtle wants to fly. If we help you fly, if we take you into the sky," said one of the birds, "do you promise that when we bring you back down, you'll keep your big mouth shut?" Turtle grinned and nodded, shouted, "Turtle wants to fly." The other blackbird said, "Here's what we'll do. We'll bring you a stick. You hold it in your mouth. We'll carry the stick into the sky, and as we rise, you will fly." Turtle watched the two blackbirds fly to a nearby tree. They broke off a thin branch and tore off the leaves and twigs. Then they brought that branch to Turtle. Turtle opened his mouth and clamped it shut on that stick. Clump! The blackbirds grasped the stick in their talons. They flapped their great wings and slowly rose higher and higher. Turtle felt the wind beneath his shell. He kept his mouth tightly shut, but he tilted his head just enough to see the earth far below his little feet. Turtle was flying. The blackbirds carried Turtle over the trees where the little sparrows were sleeping. Turtle tried to get their attention. He wanted them to see that he could fly just like the birds. With his mouth clamped shut on that stick, Turtle called out, "Mmm, mmm, 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 mmm." The sparrows didn't hear a thing. They were fast asleep. The blackbirds carried Turtle to his family's pond. The turtles were resting, with their heads drawn into their shells, but Turtle wanted his brothers and sisters to see that he could do something no other turtle could do. Still holding on to that stick, Turtle called out, "Mmm, mmm, mmm, mmm." But nobody paid any attention to him. He tried again. "Mmm." Not one turtle looked into the air. Turtle got upset. He got angry. He wanted folks to see what he could do, and nobody would even look at him. Turtle got so frustrated. He let go of that stick and shouted, "I said, hey, look at me. I can... oh. I can't fly," said Turtle, as he flapped his arms as hard as he could. "But I can fall." Turtle fell to the ground. Whack. He landed on his back. Crack. And Turtle broke his shell into the cracked one that turtles wear to this very day. Ever since then, turtles have worn cracked shells, but they don't mind. Those shells remind them that they should be happy being who they are. After all, turtles carry their homes on their backs. When it rains, they just slide inside. They're never lost or far from home. Turtles also know something that storytellers need to remember. Sometimes when you have something to say, it's okay to shout loudly and proudly, but sometimes it's better to keep your big mouth shut. The end. Story notes by the author, as they all are. There are two obvious morals in this story. The first, of course, is an encouragement to be contented being who you are. The second, and probably the more important lesson for a little chatterbox child, and I was one where there were no strangers around, was to know when to speak and when to shut up. This is the only folktale that I can attribute first to my great-grandfather, Great Pop, Jerome Arkwood, then to my dad, his grandson-in-law. In those days of political incorrectness, Great Pop would say, "This came from the Indians in the family." Dad said, "This is a story my father told me when I was a child." I have no proofs for where and when either of them heard the story, but my research has shown me that versions of both Fox and Old Man Turtle and Turtle Wants to Fly are part of the rich story heritage of the Cherokee people. Dad said part of the family was Cherokee Choctaw, but he never talked much about any part of his family. Great Pop and Dad would walk into the woods with me close at hand as they talked about what their folks used to do. In those woods in East Liverpool, Ohio, Great Pop taught me a little about tracking and a lot about the importance of stillness, silent prayer, observation, and respect for the woods. Oh, how I wish I had learned more. Excellent. The next one is Why Dog Chases Cat. Once upon a time, about time and a half ago, Dog and Cat lived together like brothers, and you know that sometimes brothers are nothing alike. Dog liked to eat and run. Cat liked to eat, clean himself and sleep. Dog liked to bark and play. Cat liked to stretch and sleep. Sometimes Dog chased after Cat until Cat found a place to hide and sleep. Sometimes Cat chased mice or birds or a piece of string hanging from the sofa cover. Most of the time, Cat liked to sleep. Dog thought Cat was lazy. Cat thought Dog was silly. Brotherhood between the two of them was bound to end. One day, Dog came home with a big chunk of meaty ribs that the farmer had given him. He said, "Cat, I brought home dinner. Since I got it for us, you should cook it for us." Cat yawned and stretched. Then Cat said, "Brother Dog, I'm just too sick. To cook for us. My back aches, my ears itch, and my teeth feel funny. Maybe you can cook the meat for us this time, and I'll do it next time." Cat climbed onto the sofa and lay there. Dog felt sorry for Cat, and Cat had called him brother, so Dog got the barbecue grill going and he cooked up those ribs. Well, Cat might have been sick, but not too sick to eat. When the ribs were ready, Cat jumped off the sofa and greedily snatched away a piece of that meat. Cat ran off and ate alone. He didn't come back to the house until the dishes were done and put away. Dog said, "Brother Cat, I did the food finding and the cooking and the cleaning up after it. Tomorrow you bring home some kind of supper for us and you cook it and you clean the kitchen. Cat licked his paws, cleaned his ears, curled up on the sofa and went to sleep. The next morning, Dog couldn't find Cat anywhere. He barked and barked. Cat, your turn to rustle up some supper for us today, Cat. Cat stayed away all day, so Dog went hunting. Dog brought home a squirrel for supper. When he walked in the door, there was Cat, asleep on the sofa again. Dog dropped that squirrel and shouted, Cat, I did the hunting. You get up and get our supper ready. Cat rolled off the sofa and flopped on his back on the floor. Brother Dog, Cat said, didn't you notice that I was gone all day? Why, I had to find some wild grass and mint to make my poor stomach feel better. My knee bones are bent and my eyes are all squinty. I can't even see well enough to know what you brought home for supper. Please, Brother Dog, you cook supper this time and I'll do it next time. Cat climbed back up on the sofa and lay there. Well, Dog had a big heart. Cat had called him brother again, and Cat's knees did look bent. Dog skinned and cleaned and boiled up that squirrel in a Simenjous, Simenjous, Simenjous pot, or Simenous pot, with onions and potatoes. Oh, it smelled wonderful. Dog didn't even have to call Cat to the table. Snatch. Cat grabbed what he wanted and took off again. Cat didn't come back until the pot was washed and clean and the kitchen was clean too. Dog growled, Cat, you don't treat me like a brother. Tomorrow, no matter how you feel, you are going to bring home the meal. You are going to cook it and you are going to clean the kitchen. Cat twitched his tail a little, pawed at the sofa cushions until they were nice and soft and went to sleep. The next day, Dog got up earlier than the sun. He tiptoed from his little bed and down to the sofa, just in time to see Cat trying to sneak out the door. Dog leapt in front of that door and said, If you go anywhere, Cat, you better come back with supper. That's just what I was about to do, Cat purred. Even though I feel terrible, I intend to bring home something, Brother Dog. Dog stepped aside and let Cat go through the door, but he thought about the way things had been going between him and Cat. Cautiously, Dog asked, Cat, what do you think you'll bring home for supper? Cat grinned and said, My appetite. Then Cat took off running. Cat grinned and said, My appetite. Then Cat took off running. Well, Dog ran right after Cat. Dog ran right after Cat, chased him around the yard and around the house and around the farm and right into the forest, and Dog has been chasing Cat ever since. Aha, the end. Story notes. An African American folktale speaks of Cat tricking Dog into dropping a ham by convincing Dog to sing about the meaty treasure they were about to share. When Dog sings, our ham, he drops the ham. Cat steals it and runs up a tree with it, where Cat sings out, my ham, my ham. This is given as a reason why dogs chase cats. My Pop-Pop's version made more sense to me, a sister with two younger siblings, each with a distinct personality that didn't always synchronize with mine. We didn't always get along, but we always remembered we were family for one another, and I didn't chase my sister and brother, except in games of tag. I climbed our cherry tree and sat in its branches, where I ate cherries, ripe and tart in the last days of summer, and read a book. And here we have Simenjous or Simenjous, Simenjous, is Pop-Pop's word for stupendous and tremendous. He knew both words, but his made-up adjective made me laugh. Oh, fantastic. One more. Look every which way. No, it's called Look Every Which Away. Look every which away. Once upon a time, about time and a half ago, there was this rabbit, though he was tricky. Folks called him brother, but sometimes he was in it all for himself. One evening the rain poured down on him so hard he could hardly see, ran into the first open door he could find, shook himself off, saw Wolf sitting on the outside, with him on the inside of Wolf's house. Rabbit said, Oh Lord, what have I done? Lord, why did you let me run this way? Wolf said, You praying? Well, I'll pray too. Thank God the rain done sent me some meat in my door. Wolf said, You praying? Well, I'll pray too. Thank God the rain done sent me some meat in my door. Gonna grab that rabbit, gonna eat him soon. Gonna feed my face by the light of the moon. Thank God the rain done sent me some meat in my door. Ha! Rabbit looked for a back door to get out of Wolf's house. Wolf's house didn't have one. Rabbit looked for windows to Rabbit looked for a back door to get out of Wolf's house. Wolf's house didn't have one. Rabbit looked for windows to jump out. Wolf's house didn't have windows either. Rabbit looked for a fireplace with a chimney hole. Wolf's house didn't even have a fireplace with a chimney hole. Rabbit asked, Wolf, how you live like this? This ain't nothing but a box with a roof on it. Wolf said, Might not be much. He said, No. Wolf said, Wolf said, Might not be much, but it's enough to keep you from getting away. Thank God the rain done sent me some meat in my door. Ha! Wolf heard lots of scratching and scratching, but he didn't pay much attention to it. Rabbit wouldn't find a way to get out of his house. After a long while, the rain stopped. Wolf went on in his house to get that rabbit. Rabbit was gone. No back door, no windows, no chimney, but Rabbit had gotten away from that old wolf again. Wolf yelled out into the evening air, Rabbit, where are you at? He couldn't see Rabbit, but he heard Rabbit say, Outside and down the road, and I'm praying again. Thank God, a big rat put a hole in your floor. Gonna go on home, gonna get there soon, 'cause I found a way to get out of that room. Thank God a big rat put a hole in your floor. Ha! See, Rabbit got himself into that trouble. He got himself out too. Lots of ways to get yourself out of a mess. You just got to remember to look every which way until you find the way out. The end. Fantastic. Story notes from the author. This was one of Pop-Up's knee-to-knee stories, the ones he usually shared with an audience of one, me. Some folks called them slave tales. Don't tell that child those slave tales. We left that shame behind a long time ago. Or low tales. Stories for and from folks with no education and little to no money. This was in the 1950s, when some of the past was a whisper and the present could be dangerous. Some of the older folks, closer to the times and truths of enslavement and the scenes of lynchings, as well as friends and neighbours who had more recently moved from the South, seemed to think that the future lay in leaving old ways and old stories in the past. Religion was a tie that lovingly bound folks together. Church was home and the place of foundation for hope. Church was also a meeting hall for discussions of equal rights and plans for change. But I think I built a foundation for my life just as much from what Pop-Pops and Daddy shared in storytelling as I did from the parables and prophetic sermons in church. One of these two men, oh Lord, my brain, I just can't remember which of them said it, told me, God gives you strength, possibility, opportunity, and at least a grain of common sense. It's up to you to choose which way you run with that. I'm sure Daddy said, because he said it so often in his stories of the trickster hero, Rabbit always used his head, never his fists. He always used his brain to get himself out of trouble. Amen. And that's an amen from the author, so I'm going to have an eye shade there. Thanks for listening.